Hello and welcome. I am the Restless Kaiser and we are modelling for advantage. So today we're going to have a look at the T-80 Shock Company, a new starter force for Team Yankee. Pretty excited about this one. It's going to bring a lot of powerful units to the Soviet forces, and hopefully at least some of these I can use with my East Germans. Look at that pro there. The weight of this box is quite substantial. So in this box we have got 5 T-80 tanks. Boom. 2 BMP-3 Scouts, 2 Gaskin AAA and 3 Spandrel AT vehicles, a pair of Hinds, a pair of Su-25 Frogfoots, flight stands, magnets, rulebook, start here booklet, decal sheets, unit cards. So fundamentally this is quite aircraft heavy. The Su-25 Frogfoot is a new plastic kit, but we'll see. I think it is from somebody else. So, by somebody else, I think it's a third-party kit that's in the same sort of scale. So let's have a look. Some of this stuff we have already seen in the cheap starter set. So let's start Team Yankee World War III. I'm just going to sort these piles out. We'll have a quick cut. First things first, have a look at the paperwork. So as well as getting a Team Yankee Start Here rulebook, some decals and unit cards, you get one of these great little Start Here booklets. I like these. They give you the instructions for building the kits as they are in this particular force. Usually with these kits there's more than one way you can build them, but they only provide 1 or 2 ways of assembling them because they fit the particular units they've provided you with. This is only a 70-point force, which is quite small. I think 100 points is about normal, but it's very heavily based on these T-80s. We'll talk about the unit cards as we look at the units. Just to say about the decal sheets, there's 5 decal sheets in here. So we get this one, which got loads of communist stars on, and I think these marks down here are for some of the helicopters, and then we've got some with the bitey shark faces. I assume that that is for the Su-25s. Oh, look at that. It says Su-25 Frogfoot on it. Pro. And then this has got unit numbers, designations on it. Alright, that's those. Let's have a look at the sprues, which is what I know you're here for. So the core formation it's expecting to build in here is the T-80 Shock Company. We'll look at the T-80 sprue in a second, but let's just say the Shock Company itself then is 1 T-80 Shock Company HQ, this card, which is a single T-80, between 2 and 3 T-80 Shock platoons, which come in 2s or 3s, a BMP Shock Motor Rifle Company, up to 1 Carnation Howitzer Battery, up to 1 BMP Shock Recon Platoon, up to 1 Shilka or Tunguska Platoon, and up to 1 Gaskin or Gopher SAM Platoon. So there's a lot of potential units you can put in the formation. But this Shock Company is not the standard T-80 formation. I think these are slightly higher skill. So these, the company headquarters has got a courage rating of 3 and a skill rating of 2, although there are some varieties. The T-80 itself though, mate, front armour of 20 and the gun and the missile have both got a firepower of 22. Really powerful. The HQ is 10 points and the platoons are 19 or 29 depending on whether you have 2 or 3. So the sprue itself then, I've built quite a few of these to play the starter set for World War III Team Yankee. Really simple kit, went together very, very nicely, very easily. Only point to worry about was to be just a little bit careful. The independent smoke launchers are a bit fiddly. They've done this in 2 different ways with other kits. With some of the British kits, they moulded the smoke launchers straight on the turret, and they were a bit sort of low fidelity as a result of it. I think the decision to do them separately is a good one because they're nice and clean, but they are a little bit tricky to get in. But you have got 5 of these bad boys in there, so you can make a legal platoon. It'd be 2 company, it'd be 2 units of 2 at an HQ at 19. And the Shock Company themselves, again, they've got these higher skill ratings. Although, interestingly, the skill of the platoon is 3 and the commander is 2. I think the idea with these Shock Companies is these are all soldiers. So the Soviet Union had compulsory conscription, which was minimum 2 years, and I think everybody in these formations is in their 2nd year. So they're slightly, they've all had their first year of training, so they're somewhat better than the standard. That was the T-80s. Shameless plug and commercial at this point. Obviously, if you are interested in buying this kit and you are in the UK, you can get them from us on our web store, modelingforadvantage.co.uk. Anyway, enough of that, let's move on. Next unit here is the BMP-3 Scout platoon for the Shock Battalion. Interesting, this one, these are 3 units for 9 points or 2 units for 6 points or 3 points each. And I forgot to mention with the Shock units, these guys being slightly better quality, they hit on 4s, whereas a lot of the Russian units are hit on 3s. BMP-3's got a front armour of 5, which is going to protect you against a lot of light weapons. We had this in the Team Yankee starter set, but again, it's a nice little kit, very new, very clean design. These vehicles are really, really flexible. So, to give you an idea, the 100mm gun on here, the 2A70, it's got a 24-inch range and only gets 1 shot halted on moving, anti-tank power of 5, but it's got firepower of 2, brutal laser rangefinder and stabilizer. This is a really good weapon system because it's a 100mm gun. It's a really good weapon system, not so much for light vehicles, but for digging out infantry. And at 3 points per model, I think that this is well worth doing. We've also got amphibious and spearhead rules, so this thing can advance deploy. I'd be interested in getting a 3rd one of these, I think, if I was going to form them. So, nice little kit, as we have seen. Very small number of pieces. Love to see that on a Wargames kit. You know, there are Wargames kits and there are Modelers kits, and we're going to see more about that later. And the Wargamers kit is what I'm looking for. Nice and simple. Pair of these in here, nice. Okay, so the last sprue is essentially the BRDM2 hull, which you get the option to build as a recon unit, as a gaskin unit, or as a spandrel unit, which are, these two are AA choices, and I think they're probably what you want to go for. This thing is hit on 3s in either case, skill of 5, so it's got those much lower quality. The difference between the gaskin and the spandrel, the gaskin has got a halted rate of fire of 2, guided AA at 5+, whereas the spandrel has got a halted rate of fire of 1, but it's got anti-tank power of 21, because the spandrel is the anti-tank weapon. In the late period that we're now getting in Team Yankee, with T-80s, with Challenger 2s, with M1A1s, 21 anti-tank power is probably not enough. So, for example, against the T-80, has got a front armour of 20 and cannot fail to roll at least a 1. This weapon system cannot penetrate it at all. That said, it is 1 point for 2 vehicles. So the fact that it dies really easily, it can take out a much more expensive vehicle. I think I'd be tempted by the gaskin because it's got that halted rate of fire of 2, 48 inches range and guided AA. And again, it's only 1 point for 2 vehicles. You can get yourself some pretty cheap AA on the table, so you're at least competing. Or as a recon option, your last option is just to build a BRDM2 as it comes in a recon platoon. 1 point for 2 vehicles, 4 points for 4 vehicles. I don't think you want the 4 vehicles in this. It does give you the spearhead rule, making it well worth it for that. But it's basically just got a heavy machine gun with an anti-tank power of 5 and 5 firepower. I don't think this is a bad recon option at all. If you just want for a point, you can get that forward deployment. But I'm not sure that this vehicle is worth much after that first turn. That's the vehicles. Next thing to look at then is the 2 aircraft components in there. We'll start with the Hind, because I think, again, this is what kit you've seen before. You get a pair of these in here. The Hind is an interesting kit. They've made the decision, because these blades are huge on the Hind, so it's broken them up. You've got the main piece here, and then you've got a little bit of keying on these two for the final 2 rotors. I understand that some people have had some problems with this. I haven't, I have to say, but I can understand why other people would have. This does have quite a few components. You've got 2 sprues here, but even so, for such a complex model, it's not too many. I feel that this is still in the Wargamers kit idea, rather than in the Model Makers kit. You have the option to have the landing gear down or retracted, because it has this kind of cavity in here that takes it. I'm just waving sprues around in front of you here, aren't I? The only bit that I had a bit of a problem with was the weapons pylons, these rocket pods that you have here. They are keyed at a slight angle because of the angle of the wings, the way that the wings set into the hull here. You actually need to glue these in at a slight angle so that they fall horizontal when you're done. So you get a pair of these. Hinds are fantastic. The only problem with Hinds, really, is the number of them. There's a pair of them in here, but I understand that if you're serious about it, you want to take 6, because these things are still hit on a 3 and have an aircraft save of 4 up. So you can take a pair of these with the AT-9 anti-tank weapon system for 6 points. A pair of them for 6 points, but they will die fast. The AT-9 Spiral has got 24 anti-tank power, firepower 3, guided heat and tandem warhead. So that thing is going to knock out serious tanks if it lives. Tandem warhead, if you haven't seen it before, is it's unaffected by ERA, explosive reactive armor. So you can still take side shots against modern vehicles. Yeah, 6, 12 or 18 points for the AT-9 version, or 5, 10 or 15 points for the AT-6 version. The AT-6 version, you're saving a point, but you're losing 1 point of anti-tank power, and you're losing that tandem warhead. I think that point is well worth it. I think if you're serious about these, you probably want to take 6 of them for 18 points, which is starting to look like a big investment. Before we move on to the Su-25, I should mention the flight stands. You get 4 of them in here for the 4 aircraft. If you've not seen Battlefront flight stands before, they're quite nice. You get a short and a long stemmed one to give you that option. You also get this interesting little plug here, which we'll come back to in a minute. They're for socketing aircraft that they haven't designed. You get the 8 magnets. Now, you might be believing that that's 4 for the Hinds, 2 each, and 4 for the Frogfoots, but it's not. The Frogfoot's going to use this socketed system rather than the magnets. All 8 of those, so you can magnetise the rotors and the flight stand. I quite like their flight stands. They do invariably have bubbles in them, unfortunately, but you can't really tell. Put them on. So that's the flight stands. The Su-25 Frogfoot. You can get a pair of these for a mere 7 points. I mean, I think that's reflected by the fact that they come in from reserve, and they may not come in from reserve. 2, 4 or 6 for 7, 14 or 21, so 7 points a pair. But again, it's hit on a 3+, and it's only got a 4-up aircraft save. It does have the KH-25 air-to-ground missile. This is the Soviet response, I think, to the A-10. It's their, the low-flying, heavily armoured air-to-ground strike aircraft for hard targets, and it's got an anti-tank firepower of 27. That's going straight through anything, no matter what they roll, so far as I can tell. Brutal, guided, and heat, but it is going to struggle with not getting shot down. So again, I think you need large numbers of them. But the kit, now, I don't know exactly who this is because of my lack of knowledge about kit manufacturers. It does say made in Korea. I don't know whether it's like Revell or Tamiya or something. I mean, I don't think Revell's Korean. I don't think Tamiya's Japanese, I think. But this is quite a different style of kit. It's 1/144th rather than 1/100th, but that's quite common in war games for them to use a different scale for aeroplanes because they're so big and they're so briefly on. I mean, fundamentally, this is just a marker that you put on the table when it comes in. It does its thing and then you take it off. So you probably don't want it to be too big. But as we look at these pieces, not only do the part numbers go up into quite high numbers, given what we're talking about here, 46 parts for a single vehicle. You do have various things on here, different weapon pods, sub-munitions, all these kind of pylons, lots of them. It's just a lot more fiddly than you would normally have with a wargaming part. It does look like quite a nice kit. My principal concern with this, is going back to the flight stand, is somehow on the bottom of this aircraft you're going to attach this socket plug, and you're going to plug. It's like a cap for the stand, so that's going to be quite an ugly protrusion because this kit was never designed to house that, so it's just going to stick out the bottom. But I suppose it's better than just having it belly to the table, which is your other option. So I haven't built one of these yet. I'm going to get to that, and I think the thing with this is it's a commitment because, again, like I said, hit on 3+. If I'm going to use these, I'm going to use lots of them, and there's quite a lot of building to do. But the pieces, there's a little bit of movement from the sprue. The sprue gates are quite light, even though the parts are small. I think provided you use a scalpel or an X-Acto, as I think the Americans like to call them, I think these will come off okay. But just be mindful, this is quite the project you're committing to. Also, to reflect the variant that you're using in the game, they have provided you with resin versions of the missiles, which, interestingly, looking at them, they might have the pylons moulded on, so that might save you a little bit of work. They do provide you with some instructions. They look fairly easy to look through, and this is their own version of the instructions, and it does warn you this does not use all parts on the sprue. Also forgot the canopy for the pilot's cabin is another piece that you've got here. So I like what they're doing here, because I think for anybody who's tried to build some of the resin and metal things that Battlefront have done, this looks like a complicated plastic kit, but I still fundamentally know what it is I'm trying to do with it. As soon as you get working with resin and metal, you get a little bit of an air bubble, a bit of misshape. It just doesn't fit together snugly in the way that injection molded plastic kits do. It feels like it's going to be hard work, but it feels like it's going to be less work than a resin and metal equivalent. What do I think overall? I think overall this is a pretty good kit. There's a lot of stuff in here that you would like. I mean, if you don't want to use a T-80 tank formation, a lot of the value of this kit is definitely soaked up in that. But apart from, I think, the two Hinds, everything in here is new. Whether it's not necessarily brand new, but it's fairly new. Like all of their kits, you've got rule books, you've got decal sheets, you get a couple commander sprues, you get the unit cards that you need. The formation is interesting because these are smaller units of high quality vehicles rather than the horde of tat that you often get with Soviet formations. I think it's decent value, even though these things, they have gone up to £80, which is a significant increase, I guess. There was 70 last year. Still think they hold a value. That's about it from me. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy our content, like the video, maybe leave us a comment. Thank you.